The previous owner of our Casita had mounted this little homemade tongue toolbox on the front of the camper, and he'd taken the propane bottles out and just put this one little one in and used the rest of the space inside the box for a portable generator. We decided we wanted more propane capacity than that, so I decided to put a larger box on the front of the camper. This is the frame that held the propane bottles on our Casita, and I'm going to replicate a frame like that, fabricate one and mount it on the inside of the box. But before I start the mounting process, you can see the hose that was hooked to the propane and the regulator. It is attached to a fitting under the front of the camper, and I'm going to disconnect that before I start the mounting process. You can see the fitting there, so I'll just disconnect that, and then I will put it back when I'm finished with the mounting. Here's the propane rack that I made. You can buy these online. Just do an internet search for RV propane rack and you get the nice pressed metal oval ones that look very professional. Unlike this one, the only reason anybody would make one like this is, say, if he was an old retired guy with a welder and a pile of scrap metal. Before I start the mounting process, I want to make sure I've got the camper sitting level so I can get the box level on the frame. Because of the depth of the box, the distance between the Anderson sway control bracket and this little angled piece at the front, the box was riding up on this angled piece and not sitting level. So I found that if I raised up the back about a ½ inch, I put a little bracket in there and just clamped it in place for a trial. And then this other piece on the front, I just laid that in there flat. That works out to be about right to make the box level. I cut these pieces of angle iron to fit in there to use as brackets for mounting the box to the frame of the tongue. And I did a lot of experimenting up and down to get the height just right. And so now I'm going to drill some holes to mount them to the frame that used to hold the propane bottles. And then I will take them off and paint them and put everything back on. I've got my mounting brackets painted and installed. I used a grade 5 bolt and nuts with the nylon inserts so they wouldn't shake loose. Next, it's time to mount the box. So what I'm going to do is mark the box place it in the center, and then mark the bottom of it in the center using this hole that is where the all thread that held the propane tanks on went through. I'll mark that, drill through the bottom of the box, and mount the all thread and slide the box down over it, and then continue mounting to the mounting brackets. I've got the all thread for the propane bottles installed, and I put on down here for the bottom side of the box, I double nutted the bottom of the box so those nuts won't come loose, and then I'm going to put a fender washer on there at the level of the brackets. So the fender washer will give it a little extra support. I've got the all thread sticking up through the bottom of the box now, and so next I'm going to put the propane bottle bracket down over it. Square that up on the inside of the box and then mount it to the mounting brackets that are underneath. I got the rack for the propane bottles installed, and I used the grade 5 bolts again for strength and nylon insert washers to keep them tight. I put one of the propane bottles in there and hooked it up, and then adjusted the regulator to the height I wanted and tightened the bracket down on that. The next step will be to drill a hole in the bottom of the box for the hose for the propane line to go through to connect to the camper. Before I put the hose through the bottom of the box, I went ahead and installed a grommet on it so I wouldn't forget later. The grommet is to keep any sharp edges from rubbing on the hose and causing a leak. I used a step bit or a unibit, they're sometimes called, to drill the hole big enough for the fitting to go through for the propane hose, and got the grommet installed. There's a picture of the step bit that I used. And so what I've got left to do is just clean up inside here, vacuum up all the shavings, and do a leak test on my connection, install the bottles, and I'll be finished. Well, no matter how hard you try, everything doesn't always go as planned, or if you don't plan, things don't go well. But it turns out that this rod, this all thread that was in here, is about 1 inch too short now to install this bracket. But in the interest of finishing up the video today, I'm just going to go ahead and show you what kind of things you can get in here. So here's what the installation looks like when it's all done. It's got enough room there for the fingers to be behind the handle when you're turning it, so that's not in the way. And it stands off a little bit from the front of the trailer, so you don't have to worry about it scuffing that. As far as the box itself is concerned, I really like the size of it. It's the perfect size, and that's about all I can say good about the box. It is made of very flimsy material. If you were wanting to put anything heavy in it, I wouldn't recommend it. And you know, I've been around these kind of boxes all my working life, and I haven't found one yet that really was very dust proof or waterproof. This one I'm sure won't be, because there's a hole down here where they burn through the weld. Right there, you can see it in the, moving my hand under it. So the box will suit for what I intended to do, which is carry light things in the front of the trailer. I wouldn't want anything heavy in the front anyway to add to the tongue weight. So just a few lightweight things that are bulky, and wanted them to be out of the way and not riding around in the car with us. Since the box is a little bit wider than the frame of the tongue on the camper, I was a bit concerned about how sharp I could turn the camper with the car attached. So I went ahead and hooked it all up and turned it as tight as I could. There's still probably another inch I could have went before I got the bumper of the car into the camper, and you can see that's a pretty tight turn, so I don't think it'll be a problem.